Good morning, everybody. I'm Julie Roginski here with Michelle Kinney. Tara is having computer issues. She will be
Yeah,
here
she'll be here in just a minute.
in a minute. She's just restarting or whatever you have to do. Joe is on her way to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, or the new media version of it, I think. So
Yeah.
she's on the train. She's going to try to join us from the bathroom if it's not too loud, but I wouldn't count on it. Um, she is going to try though. But it's, as we get ready for the show every morning, every Saturday morning, and we're always running late because I've got kid stuff and Tara's got stuff and Michelle, we all got stuff. And so, but it's so nice to see all the people joining from all over the world. It's not
Yes.
not just from the United States, but really people from all over the world. And we're so glad that you guys have now decided to make this a little bit of a tradition.
Yeah.
And Saturday mornings with us. It's literally my favorite. It really is my favorite.
Me too.
Hour.
Honestly, I will so look forward to it. And it's like sometimes my friends are like, "Do you want to go out Friday night?" And I'm like, "Nah, I got to get up in the morning on Saturday. I got to see my girls. I can't be hungover, guys."
I know. I actually, I'm I don't drink much at all. I'm a really lame drinker. Back in my single days.
Oh yeah, back in the day, I used
back
to.
in the day. But now, if I have like a drink a week, I get wasted. And so,
oh my God, Joe and I. So my Joe, we went out to dinner. Gosh, Wednesday night just to grab a bite, and I had a martini.
Oof.
Just right. And I was like, I feel fine. I feel fine. And then, we were there for like an hour and a half. So like an hour and a half later, I was like, let me have a little espresso martini. When I tell you, I woke up on Thursday morning, I was like, I feel like garbage. This is terrible. I can't do this anymore.
That's the part. You used to be able to go out and just bounce right back. Like I literally go out to like 2 a.m. and then wake up to go to work. And it was like, all right, take a couple of Tylenol and move on. If I had a martini right now, I would be down for the count for like 5 days. It's really pathetic. I'm gonna put my glasses on because I'm trying to read these comments, and I'm.
It's like I need Tylenol. I need electrolytes. I need, the list goes on.
It's really pathetic. But last night, we talked about this yesterday. It was my birthday, so I went out for lunch with my best friend, who has been my friend since the 8th grade, and she's like a sister to me. Great that all these years later, we still, birthday.
It's rare to have a friend that long. It really is.
It really is. But you know what? She's an only child and I'm an only child, and we're like sisters because of it. And we continue to be. And anyway, so we went to Blue Ribbon Sushi, which if you live in New York, I strongly recommend. It's like the best sushi place around.
Is it? I don't know it.
Okay. So there's two. There's one in Soho, which is the original one. And there's one in Columbus Circle. Yeah. So we'll go there, Michelle. It's so good. Anyway,
yeah, we should.
So I had some sake, like a little glass of sake, because I had to drive out here to Pennsylvania. And so then I drove to dinner with my husband and my son and our friends who we have here in Pennsylvania. And I had a Tito's and soda. When I order my Tito's and soda, my husband makes fun of me because I'm like, can I have a Tito's and soda, but make it really light on the Tito's? Like, only put it
or like put it in a pint glass with just a little bit and then a lot of soda.
Yeah. And he's like, this is so pathetic. I can't even believe you. But so I had this much sake and this much Tito's. And this morning I was really dragging. I was like, as you see for my hair, which I don't even think I bothered brushing.
I think your hair looks very nice. It's very shiny, very, very lovely.
I did not bother putting a brush through it. Susie Gibbon, thank you so much for the belated birthday wishes. Thank you.
And we have a Tara. We have a Tara. Give me a thumbs up, Tara, if you're good to go. All right, we're gonna bring Tara in. Hello.
Greetings.
Oh, Tara, in light of draft.
Somebody's been watching the NFL draft.
Watching the draft.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy about our NFL draft picks as a New York Giant fan. And yes, so I figured I will wear some Giants gear today. And also, I'm happy with our Canadian neighbors who are stepping up in lieu of Donald Trump trying to destroy American soft power around the world. So, and it matches. So I'm representing our Canadian brethren today and the New York Giants, who've had a great draft.
So Tara, so my 12-year-old, when I say obsessed with the draft, I mean, unbeknownst to me, stayed up till 12:30 on Thursday morning.
I love this kid.
Yeah, to watch the draft because he also was obsessed with the Giants. But he's like a savant when it comes to this. He like kind of predicted who everybody was going to draft before they drafted. But he is obsessed with the fact that Deion Sanders' son, whose name I can't remember right now, there's
Deion Sanders.
Yeah, been drafted by nobody, and he's actually feeling sorry for him, and is like, and I said,
no.
Yeah.
For those who are watching us who are football fans, there was a lot going on for the last couple of weeks with the draft and speculation about Deion Sanders' son. Now, Deion Sanders is a Hall of Fame defensive player. Deion Sanders is like one of back in the day when a lot of flamboyant, players, and he had his little dance and stuff. He played for the Falcons and the Cowboys. Anyway, his coaches the University of Colorado. He's done a lot of things post NFL career, and his son, Shedeur Sanders, was a standout quarterback at the University of Colorado. And so a lot of people were speculating that the Giants were going to take him because my Giants desperately need a new quarterback. Daniel Jones was terrible. And you know how hard it is to get fired as a starting quarterback in the NFL in the middle of the season? Well, that happened last year.
Can I just stop you? Do you think he sucked, or do you think he had nobody to throw to?
No, he had people to throw to. I think Daniel Jones, the offensive line has been a problem for years. He wasn't protected enough, so he was constantly scrambling, and he was very athletic, and he's a good, mid-level quarterback. He just couldn't carry a team. He was great on his feet. We weren't used to having a mobile quarterback because Eli Manning was definitely not that. I feel bad for Daniel Jones. He was a great guy and he was a good teammate, but it just didn't work. And so they fired him in the middle of the season, which is unheard of. So the Giants desperately needed a quarterback, and we need some other pieces too in defense and obviously offensive line. And we have Malik Neighbors now, who is an unbelievable rookie. Well, he was last year, wide receiver. He broke the rookie record. And I think he's better than Odell Beckham potentially. So that's that. But everybody thought the Giants, well, not everybody, but people were speculating that the Giants were going to take Shedeur Sanders with the number 3 pick. Now, you have to really lose badly to get the top 3 picks in the draft. So it's kind of like, everyone has been really, really focused on who the hell are the Giants going to pick, because we have sucked and endured being shitty for so long. And that last season was just brutal, 3-14, to get this pick. I did not want us to get Shedeur Sanders. I was against this. I was like, no, what are we doing?
Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. I mean, look, the kid is good. He has great potential, but he's a distraction. When you come from, he's entitled. He's a superstar Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's not a kid who's really ever been told no in his life.
No,
you know what I mean?
He hasn't. And he's not extraordinary enough to put up with that. Mm-hmm. And the New York media market, the New York sports market, I mean, it's the heartbeat of sports. You are never surviving that, dude. The first time that he messes up or something happens or he throws a little hissy fit because he didn't get his way,
right?
New York Post will drag him. He's not built for that. So I was like, please no, please God no. Let's take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter was his teammate, plays both sides of the ball, unbelievable athlete. But I figured he'd go 2, which he did. But Abdul Carter came from Penn State, fantastic upside, great defensive player. Some people are trying to compare him to Lawrence Taylor, which I'm like, calm yourselves. No. But I was praying. Now, I've luckily had the benefit of being friends with a Giants legend, Carl Banks.
Okay.
He is a legend. If you grew up I'm almost 50, so I grew up with the Giants Big Blue Wrecking Crew of the 80s, and Carl Banks was part of that unbelievable defense with Lawrence Taylor and those guys. And so
Tara, can I just stop you? My husband, who is sitting somewhat off here, I just noticed in the corner of my eye, literally is the most focused person ever and never pays attention to anything. All of a sudden turned around, looked at me like, holy shit. You know people who know things.
Yes.
Thumbs up, and then went back to work. So
oh my gosh, I love that.
He is also a massive Giants fan. But keep going.
I mean, listen, I met my husband at a New York Giants Super Bowl fan club party. The Giants play a huge part of my life. I could never have married someone who was an NFC rival team person. It wouldn't have happened. So I'll just wrap the story up because I don't want it to become all about football. But Carl Banks and I have become buddies because he actually follows me on Twitter and like from political stuff, and had sent me some messages a couple years ago. And I was like, oh my God, Carl Banks. Like, I have a Carl Banks throwback jersey. That is like one of my prized possessions because I like throwback jerseys, along with my Phil McConkey jersey. So like, I have been thrilled that I get to chat it up with Carl Banks whenever I want to talk football. And he and I have been going back and forth about the damn draft. I was like, dude, I cannot wait for this draft to be over. I'm tired of all the back and forth about stupid Sanders and all of this. And so this morning, we had another conversation because when I saw that Sanders got passed over, not only the first round and the second round, I was like, oh, wow. And this is now turning into kind of a racial conversation because the Giants ended up taking Jackson Dart at 25, who was a white quarterback from Ole Miss. And that's where Eli Manning went. And it's like, look, locker room dynamics matter. Okay. And it's like they interview, it's a very extensive interview with teams and stuff. And you got to mesh, you got to mesh. And Sadir Sanders didn't mesh. He didn't mesh. And there's all kinds of reasons for that. It's not racial, it's entitlement. And so I don't want people to start getting into this as like, it's some kind of racial thing that they picked the white quarterback from Ole Miss over Sadir and blah, blah, blah. No, okay. There's a lot more going on here. And I want to shut that down right now for anyone that's thinking that. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with he did not interview well. And that was the case with every team. That's why he got passed over.
He did interview well. The New York Post, speaking of the Post, did a whole story on it, I think yesterday or the day before. So my son said it was because he wouldn't do the combine. He was too arrogant to do the combine.
You know what I'm saying?
And so, but then the New York Post didn't even mention the combine. They talked about the fact that he just bombed every interview he had because he came in totally entitled. And then I remembered, like out of the complete recesses of my brain, remember 60 Minutes did a whole story. I don't know if you guys remember this. Maybe like
I don't remember that. On him or on his father?
Yeah, no, on the whole thing. So if anybody here remembers that story, please drop it in the comments because I don't think I'm hallucinating it.
Yeah, Tara, if you want to monitor the comments, I'm like trying to put some visuals together.
Yeah. No worries.
Yeah. So I think, as I recall, 60 Minutes did a whole thing on Deion Sanders going to Colorado and completely restarting their whole program and how incredible he was. And it was a complete hagiography of him and his son. And I think he's got more than one kid who plays, right? Isn't there?
Yes, he does. Yeah. This is the oldest, I think. Oldest.
Yeah. So I can't remember which of the kids got featured, but it probably was this one.
Him. Probably him. Yeah.
And it was like an incredible 60 Minutes thing. And
yeah, I mean, listen, what Deion's done is I mean, he's been a controversial figure over the years, but he also has done an amazing thing. I mean, he's made Colorado almost like University of Miami football of the like late 80s, early 90s, like where celebrities were flying out there to go to Colorado games, for God's sakes. I was at a conference in Germany last year, and I woke up at like 7 a.m. or some crazy time to like watch a night game or something. I forgot what it was. Like I was watching it at some ungodly hour on my iPad because I wanted to see whether University of Colorado was going to win the game. Like it was crazy. It was like a whole thing. But our team doesn't want to put up with the drama. Unfortunately, his son brings drama, and entitlement is something that nobody needs. And the Giants are one of the most storied football teams in the NFL. The Mara family doesn't put up with that kind of shit. We're not the Cowboys. We don't like drama. So I completely.
And for anybody who doesn't know, if anybody doesn't know, the Mara family, Rooney Mara, the actress, that's her family.
Yes.
Well, more like
Mara was the dad.
More like she's their family because they're so storied. But you're right.
Yes.
No, that's. I mean, just for anybody who doesn't know anything about football.
But Jojo, who's in the chat, hey Joe. Raises a good point, and so did somebody else even before Joe did, which is that Trump, who I would think has like a bunch of shit going on that has nothing to do with yes, thank you, Joe. Exactly. Like in the middle of Donald Trump.
Did? How'd I miss this?
Yesterday he weighed in. I don't even know. I gotta pull this up somewhere, but
oh my God. This is by the way, this is like the perfect coffee and conversation conversation on a Saturday morning. I love it. I didn't mean to hijack it with my Giants.
No. I got to pull up this quote here because he's such a moron.
Well, it's as much of a moron to wear a blue suit to the Pope's funeral.
This is what Trump wrote in his Truth Social post. Okay, let me stress again. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, but this is what the president of the United States decides he's going to focus on, right? Quote, what is wrong with NFL owners? Are they stupid? Stupid is in all caps.
Oh God.
Deion Sanders was a great football player. Sorry, was a great college football player. It was an even greater in the NFL. He's also a very good coach, streetwise, translation, he's black, and smart, exclamation point, streetwise. Streetwise. Would you ever say that about a white player? I don't think so.
No. What I mean, what do we okay. Go ahead, keep going.
We'll get to that in a second. Streetwise and smart. Therefore, comma, Shador, comma, his quarterback son, comma, has all caps, phenomenal genes.
Oh my God.
That's not good.
That's not good. Post this
on True Social. And is all set for greatness with a capital G. He should be picked, in quotation marks, immediately, all caps, by a team that wants to, all caps, win. Good luck, Shador, and say hello to your wonderful father. So how much do we want to bet that Deion Sanders is a huge Trumper, and at some point...
Yeah.
Oh, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, yeah, he's probably because here's the thing, is that Donald Trump, before he was, destroying the universe, was like Mr. New York for a long time, right? And I mean, like, he thought he was. But everyone knew who he was. He was like a cheesy con man, whatever. But, he's Donald Trump, and his brand is brash and big, and he would go to Yankees games and Giants games, and like anywhere he went, he'd try to listen. There's a reason why he's mentioned in so many rap songs and everything else. I mean, like, it's true. Like he is mentioned a lot. Nelly, I'm trying to think whatever the other song is I heard the other day, but like, it's that culturally, like, especially in New York, people equate New York and like New York culture and success with him. I don't know why, but some people do. Back in the day. But that some of that doesn't rub off, really.
That's
Do you know
true.
what I'm saying? It's like it's kind of baked in for the people who've lived here for a long time. And I'm saying the people who aren't smart to it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like people like us that realize, like, the jig is up, but some people don't. Like, especially there's a lot of Yankees who are all up his ass, which I don't understand.
Because he knows how to ingratiate himself to the sports and entertainment world. Same thing with boxing.
Yep.
Right. He used to
and this is why
matches at the casinos in Atlantic City and helicopter people in, and he's a big showman, and that's it's all bullshit. Right. But it's like, this is a perfect example of that. And he owned the New Jersey Generals when they tried to have the spinoff.
Yeah.
Well, and a big part of that, right? And so, and a big part of that, right, was there was a
that's the Herschel Walker connection, by the way.
There was a strike, right? And like it was like who's going to cross the picket line? So he had like the what is it called again? Tell me.
The New Jersey Generals?
No. What was the other league?
Oh, the USFL.
USFL.
Yeah.
And that's where Doug Flutie and him are connected too, because Doug Flutie crossed the picket line. Oh, he sucks. And we've talked about that, right? Like,
my Doug Flutie story.
Talked about you, Doug Flutie. Yeah,
we've talked about
my Doug Flutie story.
Yeah, and mine, right?
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, that's why he's all up in Trump's ass too, is because Doug Flutie is not a very tall man. Okay, so he's what, like 5'7", 5'8". I mean, I stood next to the guy, and he was not that much taller than me, and I'm 5 feet tall. So, he's kind of been an underdog and scrappy. And I think that he saw, an opportunity to go play and someone giving him that opportunity to play. And he went. And, I don't think he gives much of a shit about working people or unions or anything like that. So, crossed the picket line and became Donald Trump's little football barnacle.
Breaks my heart.
Football barnacle. I love that. You know how I feel about the word barnacle.
I know.
JoJo's on the chat, so Joe, weigh in because I know you feel the same way. Mariano Rivera breaks my heart.
Yeah, that one's rough. That one's rough.
Man, come on.
Mariano Rivera is like a legend, especially if you're a Yankee fan, as we all are, and especially if you're of a certain age, as I am. And the '90s were like your time, right? And the Yankees were doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
The whole Sandman, all that stuff. And Mariano Rivera is from what I can tell, a really nice guy, is all about Jesus and is all about Donald Trump. And I don't understand how you could be all about Jesus and Donald Trump at the same time. Like, what? I just don't get it. I don't get it. I'm hoping his English wasn't that good. Maybe he's not understanding.
I know. It's like Joe's right. Trump sees black players as commodities. 100% right, Joe. I mean, that's why Donald Trump likes, he parades them around, and thinks that that's all black folks are good for is for.
Well, right. I mean,
where's my black? Remember, where's my black? Remember that from a rally back in 16 or 17? Where's my black?
Yeah, where's my black guy or whatever?
Yeah, where's my African American?
No, where's my African American? It wasn't where's my black.
Yeah.
I got into a big fight on CNN over that with one of the Step and Fetch It black pro Trump guys. And I was like, really? Is that you're okay with this? Fuck out of here.
Can we talk about that for a sec? Because I actually, switching topics, but not really. We talked about this yesterday on our little emergency live Substack to everybody who joined us. Thank you. We had incredible numbers.
Yeah.
Gretzky,
like 1,000 people plus.
Yeah, it was incredible. But I'm now at the point where like, I started thinking about what we talked about with all of these cable news networks giving equal time to these flat earthers.
Yeah.
Having like discussions where you could be of different opinions and have Republicans who disagree with you on policy, but don't disagree with you on basic facts. And I'm like at the point now where like, I don't know what to do with myself anymore because I don't want to suborn it by helping it, but yet we still unite, still tag, we still go on these shows.
Yeah.
Still debate.
I'm actually on Katie Fang's last show today at noon. I got to hop at 11 or so I can go get myself together because I can't go on like this. I mean, I could, but I'm not.
Good. Rachel Maddow's on with you guys too, I think.
Who is?
Rachel Maddow. I think she's doing that show too.
Oh, is she? I love this because Katie has so much love from so many people, and a lot of us are very, very upset about her losing her platform like this, and we don't understand why. Which goes into kind of what you're talking about right now. It's relevant because Katie's been a beacon of truth and really standing up for what's right and using her show to platform truth tellers, and yet she's losing hers even on MSNBC. So go ahead. Sorry, Julie, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, no, I mean, I'm really struggling with it because I don't know why it kind of never crystallized for me. It should have until we had that discussion yesterday. But like, what are we doing empowering these debates? Like first we talked about Piers Morgan, right? And Piers Morgan will find the craziest MAGA. Literally, he has the shaman on, right? He has the MAGA shaman on. And then we're supposed to sit there with the MAGA shaman and debate.
Right.
Gate. Like, I've had 30 years of experience electing Democrats to office. And I'm supposed to like entertain the MAGA shaman. It's like, I remember when I was back in the day when I was a Fox Business first launched in 2007. And they used to have this woman who actually has grown up to be an incredible person, but at the time was Miss America. She was like 18. She was like the youngest Miss America of all time. And I was supposed to go on with her and debate politics with this woman who was Miss America, who was 18 years old. And I just remember thinking like, but why am I debating something with an 18-year-old? Like, I don't think the Miss America part's not relevant. Just that's how she was able to get on. Like, why am I debating an 18-year-old? And now I'm at the point where I'm like, why am I debating flat earthers?
Was that Teresa Scanlon?
No, no. I remember her name. She has completely left all of that behind, moved to Europe.
Interesting. Okay.
Carlson, I think, is still friendly with her. She's sure. And this is no reflection on her. She was a lovely, very smart, by the way, very smart person. But she was 18. She'd never worked.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. And Joe's right. She said it's all part of a sustained attack on facts because she's someone that would go on Piers Morgan and then they tried to down talk her and embarrass her and put her. I think they put her up against the stupid shaman at one point. And I remember her asking us in the chat, and we're like, don't go on. Yeah. Like, you don't go on there with and give any credibility to those people. And she stopped going on that show because Piers Morgan completely disrespected her, and I don't blame her. But
yeah, like I just, but it's beyond Piers Morgan, right? It's all these other places too. And on the one hand, you're like, well, I don't want to have these people it's really not us, right? We're not the ones who should be having this discussion. It's how we know why Warner Brothers Discovery and NBC Universal and all these other people platform these people because they're trying to curry favor with Trump. But like, where's the responsibility of saying, I'm not going to give a counterpoint about Julie saying the earth is round, but so-and-so saying the earth is flat. Now let's have a fair and balanced debate.
Yep.
Right? I'm going to
Yeah.
bring
No, it's true. Yeah, it's you know, the politics of the cable news world are very complicated, and it's sometimes when you pull back the curtain, you don't like what you see, even where you in places that you're hoping are on your side. There's still very ugly things that go on in corporate media world, and it's not always fair. The most talented people don't always get the best jobs. And there's a lot of favoritism. There's a lot of maneuvering. There's a lot of power struggle. I mean, it's a very, very ugly business. As you know, Julie, being over at Fox, and I was at CNN, and believe me, it's let
me tell you something
eye-opening. I could write a book about it.
Oh, if I didn't have an NDA, I could really write a book about it because I worked in politics my whole life, and that is a really dirty business, and it is nothing compared to what I saw at Fox News.
Me too. I know. I mean, it's even over, you know, I was a finalist for The View several times over at ABC. I've seen a lot. And it's you know, it can be disheartening, but again, it kind of goes back to what we talk about all the time, the importance of supporting independent media and independent voices like ours, like Jim Acosta, like all these people now that are making careers, reinventing themselves on Substack or on YouTube or wherever, because now we have platforms where you don't have to answer to the corporate overlords. And that's going to be, you know, it's more important now than ever. And this weekend here in DC, it's the White House Correspondents' Dinner weekend, which used to be kind of like the Oscars weekend of DC. They used to call it Nerd Prom for other people. You know, DC's Hollywood for other people. But, you know, we would look forward to Correspondents' Dinner weekend events and parties, and it was kind of, you know, a little self-indulgent, but give us a break. You know, DC doesn't get to do cool things like that all the time, but it's turned into, it's not the same anymore because it's really not, no one feels like celebrating given what's going on.
Right. I mean, okay, yesterday when we jumped on the Substack Live, that was because they were arresting the judge, right?
Right.
So I mean, it's not
apparently we tweeted. I didn't realize.
I don't know the details.
Somebody else.
Yeah, I didn't know the details about that, but so there was. Sorry, my brain just blanked.
Someone said Tara wearing a MAGA hat. No, this is a Canada.
Hat.
It's Canada. It ain't MAGA.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Have you met Somerset Mayor? Like what?
I know. What's I don't know why people say things.
Just want to be clear.
No. Sorry. So they're arresting judges. We're not even at 100 days yet, right? We're just about at 100 days almost. And I mean, who's to say that we won't be, you know, arresting journalists soon? And just really quick, we have Joe.
Oh, she's here.
Joe,
yes.
Welcome to the train.
I'm on the train. I have to be kind of quiet. There's not a lot of people around me, so
I love the Amtrak.
I get to see Joe later tonight.
Yay! I'm sorry. I had to jump on before it got really crowded.
No. We're so glad that you could jump on, even just for a couple minutes. It's great. It's good to see your face.
It's good to see you guys. I'm loving the conversation this morning. I love it's very coffee and conversation because we're talking about New York Giants football, talking about Doug Flutie again, but also all the craziness. And yet they're platforming disinformation. That is, and if I'm going through a tunnel soon, I hope not. But that is part of the plan, right?
Where are you on that trip? Julie and I, we all know that well.
We know that train. That train's like my second home.
I'm not in Delaware yet. Every time I get to Delaware, I'm like, don't die here. Don't die in Delaware.
But you can stop and say hi to Joe.
I know. But then again, I'm very traumatized by being in Delaware because I was at the headquarters when the debate.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I was like, get out of Delaware. But no, I'm just enjoying the hell out of this conversation. Sorry, I am inside. I hope you can still hear me.
Yeah.
No, don't worry about it.
Yeah, and Tara, I cannot wait to see you. I'm going to be all gussied up. It's black tie. Like,
I know. We get to be fancy tonight.
Yep, but it's celebrating and that. So this counter messaging or counter narrative about what this is true independent media that Substack is promoting, and I think that's fucking fantastic. And I think we need more of that.
Yeah, we're going to be moving. We're going to be moving over to Substack soon. So if you guys aren't on Substack, please join
Yeah.
the Substack and make sure you follow all of us. But they've created an amazing platform. They're making it very easy for folks like us to do our own thing as like our own kind of media bosses without the corporate overlords. And we're not the only ones. You see the Bulwark taking advantage of that. You saw, I mean, however you feel about Mehdi Hassan, but he built an entire media network last year after he left, or fired, whatever, from MSNBC. Reasons aside, just using the business model as an example, and built a burgeoning business there. And like it's the way to Jim and just so many. And so we're gonna try our hand at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jim Acosta is the best example. We talked about this before.
He is.
Yeah.
Best example of that. Jim Acosta should have been given a promotion to primetime by CNN.
Yep.
Mhm.
Jim Acosta is fantastic on every level. And I'm so pleased and so glad that Jim Acosta is taking this all over to Substack. If everybody here is not following Jim Acosta's show, please do. Like that's a good use of your time.
Fantastic. And money, please subscribe.
Yeah.
It's worth it. And Jim, we are big Jim Acosta stands here.
We really
Yeah.
are.
Because you're really funding the work. I mean, that's the thing. It's going directly to the person,
That part.
or the entity or whatever. There's no, middle person or anything that's, like a corporate overlord, It's
Yeah.
going
And
right to the person.
Mary P said they were scared of Jim Acosta. I think you're right, but they were scared of Jim Acosta because he wouldn't bend the knee.
That's correct.
Because those
100%.
come down and he just wouldn't bend the knee. He wouldn't have some people on because corporate wanted to have them on because he did not want flat earthers on a show. Like Jim Acosta, I heard, interestingly, I'll tell you, I heard from a former Fox News very prominent anchor, not one of the ones who got into trouble, but somebody I used to work with who I have actually a lot of respect for, who was one of the people who straight news anchor. They had very few. You could probably figure out which one it was.
Yeah, I was like, I'm by process of elimination. I have it down to just about one person.
Who saw me on Jim's show and texted me and said, Jim Acosta, and this was back when Jim was on CNN, Jim Acosta is doing the best journalism in television right now. That is coming from a former competitor.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And we need people who are not complying. We need people who are not obeying in advance. We need, people from 60 Minutes to do what they did. I mean, unfortunately, the attack is in full swing, but we need to have people who stand up and say no very publicly.
Yeah.
Yes. That's absolutely right. And, it's now more than ever. We're just seeing the more and more stories coming out. I mean, even, I think Puck has been doing a really good job too.
Yeah, Puck is good.
And, you see Tara Palmieri left Puck and went over to start her own thing. Like Oliver Darcy is doing.
Listen, the more the merrier, in my opinion. And I know it's like, oh God, there's so many, there's so much competition. I'm like, okay, but like again, look at the right. There's a bajillion of them. They all seem to do quite well, if not too well. Funded by, Tim Pool. Tim Pool and Benny Johnson being paid $400,000 a month to do their shows from a Russian entity. And then Tim Pool now has a spot in the White House press office, which is just honestly outrageous. I can't. But anyways, I my point being is like the more the merrier. I mean, the more the better. The freer we are, like we have to, and it's also not going to be as easy to control for all of them. It's going to be, playing whack-a-mole with them. There's only so many of us that they can threaten at the same time.
Speaking of Russia, and speaking of media, I want to just raise this because I kind of, you guys know from the chat, lost it a little bit this morning. So I opened up my New York Times this morning. All hungover from my 1.5 drinks last night.
That's funny, Julie.
I was very good on. It's so pathetic.
We put some back recently.
I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, JoJo and I can throw them back. We did last week after the Jim Acosta town hall with Harry Dunn doing shots at 1:30 in the morning. It was great.
Sorry.
Yeah. Even talking about somebody doing shots at 1:30 in the morning, I'm like hungover listening to you guys. But anyway, so here's the headline from the New York Times, which PS is probably the only major media institution that is not owned by a corporation, but is owned by a family and therefore has that others do not. So this is not a knock on the New York Times for this. But this is the headline. Thank you. Well, there it is. How Trump plays into Putin's hands from Ukraine to slashing U.S. institutions. This was today's April 26th, my friends. We're almost 100 days into this administration. I wrote a Substack newsletter on February 24th, I believe, that outlined all of this. And not because I know anything, but because it was so easy to put together all of this information, from his marriage to Ivana, to his trip with Ivana to Moscow in 1986, to his weirdo private meeting with, I mean, there's, I don't dwell on it. You want to go on my Substack, just read it.
Well,
But-
I actually have it here.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, what the hell's going on? And then you talk about late last week, former Soviet. Yeah, this was about that. And then I actually have the tweet that he put out, or the Facebook post.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true. I don't know if it's not true, but I'm just going to say this. Whether Trump was actually a Soviet asset that then became a Russian asset or not, at this point to me is kind of immaterial, because I cannot imagine anything that they would have asked him to do that he's not doing already.
Yeah.
Like, he's just doing it.
Right.
And
you
so-
don't have to be a spy for them. He'll just do it anyways.
I don't know what the motivation is, but like, if I show up at your house and you know, blow your head off, like, it doesn't matter what my motivation is, you're still dead, right? So like, that's basically what he's doing here. It doesn't matter why he's doing it, but he is giving the Russians everything they wanted and things they probably didn't even know they wanted.
Mhm.
So to me, what I don't understand is, why is it taking 100 days for the New York Times to write this story? Like, what is going on with the media? Why are they just sitting here like all lackadaisical? And meanwhile, on the front page of the New York Times, despite everything that's going on, you know, it's the Pope's funeral. Listen, I get it. It is a major thing for the Pope to be dead. We only have one Pope at a time. He is a major world figure representing 1 billion Catholics. It is akin to losing a president, if not more. But
I don't mean to interrupt, but Joe says that she's going to head back into the chat. So I just want to
Okay.
say, Joe,
Bye,
we
Jay.
love you. Thanks you so much for jumping in.
Yes,
see you
thanks,
later.
Joe.
Yeah.
Safe travels. I'll see you later.
right, but like, CNN has been wall-to-wall coverage about the Pope's funeral.
Yeah, a little too much, by the
But
way.
the
Like,
Times-
I
the
was like,
Times was
enough.
Front story, top story, the Pope's funeral. Like, the Pope's been dead now for a while, like for a few
Yeah.
days. He's going to still be dead.
And
Like,
in my opinion, they are not covering the real story of
No.
the Pope's
Right.
funeral. There is
Right.
a real story there.
There is, which we'll get to in a second. But my point is, like, there's so much other stuff going on in the world that's impacting us on a daily basis. Get back to me when the conclave chooses a new pope and we know what's happening. But now it's going to be wall-to-wall coverage. What's happening in the conclave? Let's all stand outside St. Peter's and wait for the white smoke. Like, just, there's real shit going on
Right.
that impacts people.
That's correct. 100% correct. And it's like they're every minute that they're spending on the Pope still being dead, they're not covering
This.
what's actually going on, what's happening with Trump and Ukraine and Russia and Elon Musk's destruction of the federal government and him slinking away, and the information that they're taking, or what's happening with Tulsi Gabbard running around. They're getting rid of firing intelligence officers they claim aren't sufficiently obsequious enough,
Yeah.
right? Like there's so much shit going on here that people should care about, that I'm sorry, stop with the Pope's coverage. Like you said, it's important, but like, he's still dead and going to be.
Yeah, and like, that's the part I don't get. Like, he's still dead. It's like, generally, remember that Saturday Night Live thing? Like, Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead.
Yeah.
Same, like,
Yes.
Francis is still dead. He was a wonderful man. He did a lot of good stuff. Acknowledged. Now let's talk about what's happening right now. There's a 2-year-old American citizen who got deported.
Yes.
One of the kids who got deported, who's an American citizen, apparently has metastatic cancer. And they deported the
wrong one.
child. They deported this child without access to meds and access to his or her doctors.
Yep.
It's
Undo
just,
Like-
this is just nuts. And that's on top of what the LA superintendent of schools came out and said, how ICE is going in now and they're literally arresting 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade kids. Like, they're snatching them out of schools. This is Gestapo shit.
Well, and he said also, right, that they're allowed to now legally come into our homes without a warrant, without a search warrant, and look for migrants. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
They're not.
At what point did the Fourth Amendment cease to exist? Because I missed the memo. And
Yeah.
I just want to read this for anybody who might be listening and not watching. The headline in the Rolling Stone says Trump has now deported multiple U.S. citizen children with cancer. 2 families, among them 3 U.S. citizens aged 2, 4, and 7, were abruptly deported under troubling circumstances, says the ACLU of Louisiana. And as part of Donald Trump's immigration crackdown, this happened. This happened Friday morning. One of the children was undergoing cancer treatment, and one of the mothers is pregnant. Both families had lived in the country for years and had ties to their communities, according to the ACLU of Louisiana, which warns that the circumstances of their sudden deportations raises grave due process concerns. What else is new? Yeah. The civil rights organization says that the first family was detained on Tuesday, the second family on Thursday, and that one of the mothers was given less than 1 minute on the phone before the call was abruptly dropped after her spouse attempted to provide a phone number to legal counsel.
God.
Let me just say this, couple of things. One is, of course, these kids are American citizens. I assume they were born to undocumented immigrants, but nevertheless, we have a law in this country that if you're born here, you become an American citizen automatically. That law is being challenged right now before the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're not waiting for
birthright citizenship stuff.
but they're not. Yeah, but they're not waiting for the birthright citizenship decision to come down from the court. They're just doing it.
Yeah.
They're just unilaterally.
Don't ask for permission.
We're
Just
not
do
waiting. We're not waiting for the court to tell us what's going on. We're simply deporting you because we, Donald Trump and Tom Homan, Michelle's buddy,
Mushmouth,
do not believe that you are an American citizen if you're born to somebody's an undocumented immigrant. It doesn't matter what the Constitution says. We don't believe it. And we're not going to wait for the court to tell us whether we're right or wrong.
That's right.
That's one. But 2, you have the right to counsel.
That's right.
And they're denying you your right to counsel. So all these things, I'm not an attorney, but I know enough to know that both of these things are not legal. And nevertheless, it's happening. And we're still focusing on the Pope's funeral.
Right. It's craziness like this. And arresting judges is really, like, you titled your Substack live yesterday, Julie, like the coup is starting.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, that's the kind of shit that starts. Like you can't arrest judges on willy-nilly. You can arrest judges if they're like, involved in legit criminal activity. What we're talking about here is intimidation tactics, and it's legally dubious what they're doing. And they admitted that. You have Pam Bondi running around Fox News talking about how we're sending a message. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
It's not the message you think.
She is a
what are you
dum-dum.
doing?
She is a dum-dum.
She is the worst.
And by the way, as like, and Joe, chime in here because you're in the same boat. Like, as a mom of a kid, imagine you're sitting there in your classroom and all of a sudden ICE agents open the door and take your best friends away. And like, who do they think they're harming here in addition to these kids who they're stealing?
I know.
And think about the teachers put in the situation where you have strange men, I presume, and maybe women, coming in and seizing minor children when your entire life has been about protecting your students.
Let me tell you, I said this a couple of weeks ago. I spoke at this education conference with teachers and administrators and stuff. And a woman came up to me and said, I'm a teacher and I teach ESL and, English as second language students and special ed for a lot of these kids. And she goes, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. She's like, the position this is putting me in, it's breaking my heart. I just want to protect my students. And she's like, they're literally having conferences and meetings with teachers about what to do if ICE storms your school.
Right. How do you protect your kids?
In addition to having conversations about what to do if somebody shows up with a gun to your school, like
right, that's what I was like. Right, I'm like the gun violence and mass shooters. Okay, what do our teachers have to be now? They have to be marksmen. They have to be human shields. They have to be, have like
immigration lawyers.
Yeah.
Right. They have to be able to treat a gunshot wound like they work in triage. Okay. And then in addition to that, they have to be linebackers that are, to get the ice out of your way. I mean, it's just like, at what point are we going to start hiding people under our baseboards?
I
You know,
know.
Gina Guthrie raises a good point. She said the Nazis didn't care about separating families either, neither does this administration. So let me just say something. That is the hallmark, the whole family
Mhm.
separation thing. That is the hallmark of
That
autocracy.
and that is Tom Homan too, by the way.
I lived it. I was raised by I think people we've talked about this before. I was born in the Soviet Union. I was raised by my grandparents. My parents, I saw them on weekends, but my grandparents were my primary caregivers. And we were allowed to leave very mercifully. My grandparents were not. And I was told at the age of 6 that I would see them again. And that was that was on purpose. That was on purpose. That is the hallmark of these authoritarian regimes. It is to separate families. It is to create pain. The pain is the point. There was no reason why my 70-something-year-old grandparents couldn't come with us, except that the whole point was to punish everybody for wanting, for existing. And that is not what this country is about, but it is now what this country is about.
Yeah.
And to our friends watching from all over the world, I know we have people from Camden Town, from the UK, from London. We have people from Canada on this chat. We have people from all over the world. You must be looking at us and saying, I don't understand. Like the Statue of Liberty, the beacon. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses.
What a joke.
We don't understand either.
What a joke.
We don't understand either.
Nope.
Because a minority of this country voted to elect this man, and what he's doing is now
majority of voters.
Majority of
unfortunately,
voters, but a minority of the country.
Yeah.
It is what he's now doing is affecting all of us and all of you, even people who don't live in this country, people who are scared to come to this country because I don't know if you guys saw the numbers, but it's startling. Europe especially has dropped off a cliff in terms of European tourists coming here.
Yeah, you wrote a good Substack on this.
Yeah, but it's gotten even worse. There were newer numbers since I wrote that Substack, but even newer numbers. Europe is off the charts. Europeans do not want to come here. I got a message from a Substack follower who lives in Scotland, I believe. I don't know if he's on this chat, but who lives in Scotland, saying, I write a lot of stuff about Donald Trump that's negative. Should I come to would I be able to come to the United States? Do you think I'd be in trouble? And I wrote him back and I said, honestly, I don't know the answer to that, but I wouldn't.
Yeah. Here in Germany, right? How a century makes such a difference. Well, here in Germany, they've issued a travel warning for the US. And there's several countries in Europe. Was it like 10 or 12 now? It's it's crazy.
The UK has too.
Yeah.
And France.
Yeah. And by the way, Germany, of course, there was a German citizen living in Boston, somewhere in Massachusetts. I want to get to that in a second. There's a man who was a German citizen, but a green card holder here in the United States, who was visiting family in Europe, flew back home. He's been living here, I think, for like 15 years, 20 years. His mother lives here. They're both green card holders, just never bothered to get their citizenship, but basically integrated into American society for a long time, arrested, and I believe still detained. They're
taking people's phones, right? People are getting burner phones. They're checking when you come back into the US.
Yeah.
They
they're saying to not have your Face ID to open your phone, because if you have to use a passcode, then they actually have to get a warrant. So that's the workaround there. That's what they're warning people to do. But I did just want to say really quick about the family separation thing, because it just got me thinking. So Tom Homan, just to remind everyone, if you don't know, he was responsible for the kids in cages. That was his policy. That was his idea. Stephen Miller, who is not even 40 years old, who is the great grandson of refugees. Jewish refugees. It's not like he got into MAGA and suddenly became this way. He has been spouting this shit, and there are videos. And at some point when we get a better, a bigger operation here, I'd love to do more shows like this that are just, issue specific, so we can do deep dives. But Stephen Miller has been this person since he was a teenager. There are videos of him talking about janitors at his high school. There are videos. There's a stand-up comedian actually who talks about Stephen Miller and that he knew him and what kind of person he was. Like, this is always who he has been. And he got into politics as a staffer for Jeff Sessions, who was like one of the more racist senators in modern history. And it was from Jeff Sessions then becoming attorney general that he got into Trump world. And he has taken those ideas, and it is the birthright citizenship thing too, that he has long been obsessed with.
Yes.
That he thinks that, children of undocumented immigrants do not belong here, that they do not get citizenship since they came from undocumented people. So this is all coming from him and the cruelty. And he is the deputy chief of staff, and he is the head of the policy for this stuff.
Yeah, he's running it.
He is running the show, and his wife Katie is the second in command to Elon Musk.
Yep.
She is equally as horrible.
Yep.
The two of them are the devils incarnate. So while he sometimes, when he's not spouting and complaining on TV and losing his mind, somebody called him Pee Wee German, and I was like, "That's amazing."
Somebody asked. Somebody could not believe that he's not even 40. Yeah, he's
not even 40. I'm
so
42.
He's turning 40 in August. He is 39 years old.
Yeah, I mean that the hate will age you. But it's this is the hallmark of his worldview, and I don't even say he's Goebbels, because I don't think he's a particularly great messenger, and like the propagandist was Goebbels. I think he's Himmler. He's Himmler if we want to make comparisons to Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
So
like the commanders in the Star Wars movies that are, with the Nazi pants and the whole outfit. He looks like one of those guys from the Empire. Right.
So anyways, I just wanted to put a pin in the Stephen Miller part of this, and the power and the role that he plays in all of this that is affecting the lives of millions and millions of people, and also opening the door and the gate for the rest of us to have our rights violated and taken away from us. It starts somewhere.
True? I'm assuming that's Katie Miller, tried to get a black teacher fired when she was in high school.
Oh, I don't know. I will look into that. I will find out.
Oh, wow.
I'm very
Michelle will find out. She's a super
never
put up this tweet from Jeff. Put up this message from
never underestimate my ability to find shit out.
Yeah.
Never.
Sorry, the most recent one. If Nosferatu and a DMV clerk and her
she said, I'm pretty sure Steven sleeps in a coffin line with ICE detention center blankets, haunted ventriloquist dummy that came to life just to think of ways to keep brown babies away.
Wait, but she's got another one too. If you could go scroll
Where
down.
is it?
It's go scroll down. She goes, honestly, if Nosferatu and a DMV clerk on her period made a baby while watching Sweeney Todd, you get Stephen Miller, except even Nosferatu's hair didn't come out of a can.
Yeah. I don't know if people know this. There was an interview that he did several years ago, because, he doesn't have any hair. And he, those keratin hair fibers that you can put on your hair, to cover your hairlines or whatever. He drew his hair on with this, with something like a mold or a stencil. And he had, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Actually, I want to find it. Stephen Miller.
Oh God.
Draws on
That's
hair.
Funny. That is so funny.
Oh, here it is. Hold on.
Well, Stephen Miller is also the architect of the author of the American Carnage speech that lives in.
Oh, yeah.
Why is anybody surprised?
One of the great orators of our time, Stephen Miller. Jesus Christ.
He had hair. So true.
He's also the one that had the meltdown on CNN a couple years ago. Well, he has them all the time, every time he's on air.
Jake Tapper kicked him off the set.
Yeah, that's right. Donald Trump's authority will not be questioned.
Look at that. Look at that.
Oh my God.
Drew himself a receding hairline. If you're going to go.
Right.
I know. I was just go the whole way, dude. Also, aren't you making enough money to fly your ass to Turkey and get a hair transplant like everybody else is? That seems to be the trend right now. So anyways.
Oh my God.
Did it. Remember what Elon used to look like before the hair transplant?
Oh yeah. Listen, get a hair transplant, but
listen.
Yeah. Laura Loomer is another one that looks like she's been raked over the coals. She's only, what is she, 30?
Oh my God.
Let me look it up. I think she's even younger than that.
It's just, yeah. Well, that's what happens when you're sold
30, she's 31.
Body. Yeah. Well, on that note, guys, I have to jump, but you guys can continue on this conversation. But I have to go get myself ready for Katie's show. happy to see everybody. We had coffee conversation and cat butt because Rafi entered the chat today a couple times, as folks saw. So you got your cat butt fix for the day. But yes, I'll see everybody at 12 on
Yeah.
Katie's show.
Everyone,
watch.
please watch Katie's show today. Give her your ratings, like give her the clicks and stuff, because I'm going to tell you right now, Katie Fang is as nice as she seems on TV. She is brilliant. She is kind.
Yep.
She's a very, very lovely person. And I absolutely hate that she's losing her show. So support her in any way you can. Follow her on social media as well. And, you know, God bless.
Katie shows at MS. Somebody asked, where is it? It's on MSNBC.
Yeah, it's on MSNBC. It starts at noon.
You're going to be in the A block too. You are.
Yeah, I think I'm B block now. I think
they moved you. Okay.
Yeah, but that's okay. I'll still be on. And you know, I just want to say one last thing about Katie. Even though she's still going to be at MS as a legal analyst, but let's just admit that that's a demotion. Let's be real. But when I lost my beloved cat Tiki in September, and I was devastated, like devastated. He was almost 18. Tiki was everything to me. I don't have children. Tiki was my little son. And I had him longer than my husband. Like he'd been there through a lot in my life and things. And so it was devastating. And Katie Fang was one of the first people to send me personal messages to kind of help me through that grief, because she also had lost
her dog, right?
Yes.
Right, around the same time.
She was incredibly helpful, helping me through that grief. And I'm grateful to her for that. And she checks in on me. She checks in on Rafi. She was one of the first people that I sent a message to when Rafi came into our lives. And I said, look, and she was she really helped me through that. And that's just another testament of what an amazing, kind, amazing person she is.
And if you can find, there's a clip. She did a segment on her show. Maybe 6 months ago, maybe it was longer, about her father.
Yes.
And the love that she has for her father who passed away. I mean, it's just, this is why I'm saying, like, she is who she presents.
Real. She's
a
real
real person.
She's real.
By the way, the camera doesn't lie. Just so you know.
Like I've stood next to her and I was like, damn girl, you know.
No. I don't mean physically. I just mean the camera.
No, I thought like she ain't. I'm sorry. I thought you meant like she looks great.
I don't mean physically. I mean the camera doesn't lie. Like what you see is like what you see is what you get. You could try to be full of shit. The camera doesn't lie.
Yeah. And she also has great skin.
Yeah. She's also beautiful inside.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah. She's as beautiful.
And just so you guys know, Jim Acosta sent a little note to me and said, "Oh, you guys are so nice." While we were on air.
That's nice. Right now,
love you guys, carry on, folks. Have a great Saturday. You ladies, carry on your lovely selves. I will see you guys later.
Bye. So I don't even know where we were before we started talking about.
I don't know either.
Joe threw me off with the Nosferatu.
I know. I did want to answer this from Dana. Julia Michelle, are y'all still going out to protest anytime soon? So I'll answer for myself. I plan to in the coming couple months. I'd like to. I will say just personally, doing this day in, day out, every single day, by the time Saturday comes, I'm like, but since it is going to be nicer out, I would like to participate in that, especially in New York City. And during the last administration, protesting was the new brunch. I was out like every single weekend with a sign and with my camera. I was a photographer before COVID. And so I did a lot of like assignment stuff too. So, I was at many of them, but I hope to soon.
I agree. I feel like with all the writing that I do every day on Substack, with all the shows that we do, I mean, I do 3 shows, the 2 that we do here, and then 1 more that I do with Ogle Atman on Thursday, plus all the, CNN, MSNBC hits, ABC hits that I do. Like, I feel like my life is one big protest against what's going on. But I agree. April 1st is the next. You said, I think, Kristen.
May 1st, May Day. That's what. Yeah.
Speaking of May Day. But I mean, I agree with you. As soon as the weather. Bye, Joe. I know that tunnel in the Chesapeake Tunnel. But yeah, absolutely. Well, and everybody else should. Look, we should all do our part every way we know how. Right?
Yeah. Some people are really good at sending letters. Some people are making calls. Some people are organizing. Some people are protesting. It's like, find your lane. You don't have to do everything. you know, and that's my advice to everybody else. you
Yeah.
know?
However you can do it. I mean,
Yeah.
just find your way.
Exactly.
And but I'll tell you, it is getting interesting because the forums to do it in mainstream media are getting fewer and fewer. I mean, they are, you see which way CNN is going, you see which way even MSNBC is now going with the Spinco thing, where they spun off from NBC. You see who they kept, who they promoted, who they got rid of. It's very interesting. Like, I'll tell you who I think is fantastic. Ayman Almuddin on the weekend had a phenomenal show because he wouldn't just let people talk in sound bites. He would have them on for a long period of time so that you could have a discussion and you wouldn't feel like you have to constantly be cut off. It's not that he got a show taken away. They brought three other co-anchors on with him, which I mean, that show to me was perfection.
You were on that show often. I feel like
I was on that show often, and I got to tell you, it was my favorite show to do.
Yeah.
That I do, because he's very thoughtful. Like, he's very thoughtful. And it's not that you're debating like whether the earth is flat or the earth is round. You're having real discussions that are really like rooted in fact. If you hear that part, that's my dog who probably saw a deer or something running. But bottom line, it's getting worse, harder and harder. And that's why I think it's so important. Listen, the only reason we haven't cut the cord yet is because my husband is like a complete cable news junkie. And there's no stop him, because every time he comes home and turns it on, I'm like, oh my God.
I know. We have Hulu Live, actually, which is through the Apple TV. And we've had that for maybe 8 years. I haven't had a cable box since, I don't even know. It's been a long time.
Yeah. But now look, now they're cutting PBS. They're cutting funding to PBS. They're trying to cut funding to NPR. Cutting funding to, obviously Voice of America and Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty and Radio Marty and all of these democracy promoting things. Like, they are coming
for all of it. I mean, and that's the thing is,
they have come for all of it.
Yeah. And there was rumblings, and a couple of group chats that I'm on with some consultants and staffers and stuff in DC. There were like, somebody said, well, I heard from a couple people in the climate space that they're going to be coming for the 501c3s. And I think that is it's going to be way more than climate. I think they're going to come for many, many, many 501c3s. I think it's only a matter of time until they come for the C4s and the 527. C4s being more like advocacy, 527s a super PAC, like Seneca Project. Because I'm sure that they'll find a way to be able to allow themselves to do it and stop everybody else from doing it, like how they're attacking Act Blue right now.
Well, Act Blue, and I want to talk about that for a second because I'm not sure people are aware. So Act Blue is the platform that if you want to donate $10, $5, $1, $1,000, whatever it is, to a Democratic campaign, chances are you do it through Act Blue. It makes it really foolproof in that if you've already done it, they save your information. You just have to hit a button and the dollar amount that you want to contribute, or it's very easy. It is easier than checking out from the Gap. Like, it's super easy to do. And of course, that's the way Democrats raise money. And now they have launched, Donald Trump signed an executive order, which, by the way, another thing I want to talk about, he keeps signing executive orders to have the Department of Justice investigate people or things. The Department of Justice does not work for him. It works for the United States of America.
News to him, though.
And the fact that the media is not talking about that, the fact that no president in the past has ever signed an executive order directing the Department of Justice, quite the opposite. They do everything they can to avoid even an appearance of impropriety, which is why Joe Biden did not direct or sign an executive order directing the Department of Justice to investigate Donald Trump and all of his bullshit, though some of us believed that the Department of Justice moved really, really slowly to do that.
Too slow.
But somebody said here, I think they're after Act Blue data. They don't need to go after Act Blue data because Act Blue data is all public. If you contribute to a campaign, that's all in the public domain. So it's no secret who it is.
Julie, I was hoping somebody asked here, 501c3s, please elaborate, because you have a 501c3. So I was wondering if you could talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So 501c3 is a charitable organization. It's, pick your charity. The Red Cross is a 501c3. Is that your husband bringing you a?
Yeah, he brought me a
Oh,
matcha.
that's so sweet.
Iced
That's so nice.
matcha.
of him.
Yeah.
A 501c3 is a nonprofit. I run a nonprofit. It's called Lift Our Voices. I run it with Stephen Carlson, who's my former colleague at Fox News, and we run a nonprofit called Lift Our Voices that's dedicated to eradicating silencing mechanisms in the workplace for toxic workplace issues. So, for example, just to give you some perspective, more than a third of all American workers are bound by non-disclosure agreements, so that if you get raped at work, if you get called the N-word at work, if you get harassed, discriminated against on age, gender, sex.
It's more prevalent than people realize. It really is.
People have it. And our whole thing is you shouldn't have to keep your mouth shut about that. The only reason you should have an NDA is because you have trade secret information. Of course,
right.
So our kind of analysis is if you know the secret formula to Coca-Cola, you should not be able to walk it across the street to Pepsi. That's
proprietary, right? Like
that's what a non-disclosure agreement is for. But if you get harassed by an executive at Coca-Cola, you should be able to talk about it. That's not the case. And a reason that I can never tell you about what happened to me at Fox News is because I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So a lot of information that is in my little head that I can't share, but it's not that it's just good for gossip. It's not because it's just good for gossip, although it is. It's also because there are potentially, and I can't say whether there are or there aren't because I have a non-disclosure agreement, but potentially there are people who are still working at Fox News who if you're an employee at Fox News, might want to know is a predator or enabling predators, but I can't tell you because I have a non-disclosure.
Right.
Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that we run a 501c3. And we got a letter we're fiscally sponsored, which is, I'm not going to get into it, but we got a letter from our fiscal sponsors saying we are aware of the Trump administration's potential threats to 501c3s. And Kristen, you made a good point. Most churches and religious institutions are 501c3s. They are. Yep. So they're going to come for churches that maybe allow LGBTQ people to serve or to be included. They may come for churches that give sanctuary to undocumented immigrants. They may come for schools. Well, they're already coming for, a great example. They're coming for Harvard's Harvard's 501c3, their tax exempt status. 501c3 status allows you to be tax exempt. 501c4s are educational organizations that can do limited, not the majority of what they do, but a great deal of what they do can be political.
Yes. And there's trigger words if you're to make an ad or something for your C4, there's trigger words like I think Democrat, Republican, you can't use, but you can use conservative or liberal. There's guidelines, but there's a lot more dark money, I think, in the C4s, right?
Well, Make America Great Again, Inc. is a C4.
Right.
And what you can't do in a C4 is you can't say vote for Michelle Kinney, but you call Michelle Kinney at blah, 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 phone number, and tell Michelle Kinney she's the best person on earth, right? That's the difference. It's
no labels. If you know who No Labels are, they're a C4. They don't have to disclose their donors either. They don't have to say where they get their money or what they're spending their money on.
So that's Citizens United. If you want to know why dark money exists through C4s, that's Citizens United. They're going to come after the Democratic C4s. They're going to come after 527s, which is a straight up super PAC, which all that is
Seneca Project.
Which is Seneca Project, but it's also if Michelle were running for Congress and she had Kinney for Congress, I couldn't coordinate with her, but I could run ads every day saying vote for Michelle Kinney for Congress as long as she did not coordinate.
Right.
That's a 527. All of these numbers are IRS, are like it's under the 527 provision of the IRS code. It's under the 501c4 provision of the IRS code. That's where you have all these numbers from. I'm only boring you guys with all of this to say that they are coming for anybody who's not them. And then eventually they will come for each other because they can't help
that always happens. That always happens. And a couple people are asking if NDAs are forever.
Yes. Yes. And not only are NDAs forever, but for example, if one were to have sued Roger Ailes, at Fox News, hypothetically, and he's dead, that NDA potentially and hypothetically extends to his wife and to his 25-year-old son forever. So, you know, it's it's bad. I mean, it's bad. I think when people sign NDAs, I don't want to, you know, we can do a whole separate show on this, and God knows I spend
We should.
hours of my day talking about this. But just you guys, before you sign anything at work, take a really good look at your contract.
Oh yeah.
Because the reality is you don't think anything bad is going to happen to you until it does. And then you realize so I'll give you a better example. I had to sign an NDA I was a consultant for Governor Murphy of New Jersey. I got him elected. I signed an NDA as part of my contract working for him. Didn't think much of it. I, was buried in a very long contract. About a year after that campaign was over, a young woman came to me named Katie Brennan. She was a former volunteer, and she said to me, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, kind of, I guess. And she said that she had been raped, sexually assaulted by one of Governor Murphy's senior aides. And she needed help from me. I was a senior woman on that campaign. Almost immediately, Governor Murphy's lawyers started sending me letters telling me that I was bound by an NDA and I had to keep my mouth shut. I could not help this woman. And I had to make a decision as to whether to be sued into oblivion by a really wealthy, powerful man or to help the sexual assailant. And this thing ended up becoming a huge scandal for the governor. It ended up in court. Finally, they had a consent decree to allow me out of my NDA, which is the only reason I'm able to tell you the story now. And Heather Cooper, there must be a way around NDAs. There are not, because it is a contract that you sign. And the only way that you can get around an NDA is because Washington State, California, and New Jersey is part of New Jersey because of my story. California and Washington State, because they followed New Jersey, passed a law saying that NDAs having to do with human rights violations no longer valid. Gretchen Carlson and I passed a federal law called the Speak Out Act, which gets rid of pre-dispute NDAs, but just for sexual misconduct. Doesn't go as far as we want it to go. It's still a great law, but doesn't go as far as we want it to go.
Right.
But you're pretty screwed unless you live in New Jersey, California.
Right. I know New York is trying to.
We have a law. We had a law in New York that we try to pass. New York has a law, and we really should do a separate show on this if anybody's interested. Because I think it's important for people to know. But New York has a law that says no NDAs unless at the request of the victim, right? And the truth of the matter is, so okay, you get harassed by your boss, and you go to HR, and they say, okay, sign this NDA, and we'll give you a month's severance. But you have to request the NDA, or we're not going to give you any money. So of course you need the money. You're going to request the NDA, and your lawyers are going to tell you to request it because they want you to make some money so they can make some money.
Right.
So then when you try to go before a judge and you say, I really want out of this NDA, the judge is going to say, well, what are you complaining about? You're the one who requested it.
Right.
So in some ways it's even more nefarious than not having any kind of law at all.
It's to protect the employers, not the employees. Right.
Always to protect the predators and the expensive survivors.
Right.
So my point is, and somebody here said a separation agreement is different than an NDA. It's a confusing situation. So no, you have a separation agreement. They will typically tell you to sign an NDA if you want,
as part of the agreement, right?
Agreement. If you want any severance, you want a letter of recommendation, you want them to not trash you, you have to sign an NDA. And then when you apply for your next job and somebody says, hey, Michelle, you worked at company X for 20 years. Why aren't you there anymore? But you have an NDA, you can't tell them. So you have to either lie and say, come up with some new reason as to why you're not there anymore, which of course is no way to start a new relationship. Right. Or you have to say to them, I can't tell you. And if I'm an employer and I'm looking to hire Michelle and she tells me she can't tell me why she left her previous job, I think Michelle did something wrong.
Yep.
Not that something wrong was done to her. So
That's why these things like, I mean,
Mary
it's
P,
just,
you said, can you tell them you have an NDA and can't tell? With my NDA with Governor Murphy, I could not tell anybody I even had an NDA.
that is heinous. And the thing is too, like on a human level with a lot of this stuff is the abuse, whether it be, you know, toxic workplace abuse or emotional abuse. Like, I mean, there's so many things that occur in a workplace that I think the average person doesn't even know are illegal until they're pointed out to you and you're like, oh shit. You can't heal as a human being until you can talk about it. And I mean, okay, we all go to therapy and talk about our what happens to us, but
You know what, Michelle? According to my NDA with Governor Murphy, I couldn't talk to a therapist about it.
what?
I couldn't talk to my husband about it.
Jesus.
I couldn't
No
talk
way.
to my mother about it. I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I could not tell you that I worked for him, according to this NDA, despite the fact that my name was all over the newspapers as having worked for him. I mean, that's how strict these NDAs are. So, you know, yes, IROL, it should be illegal. I'm working really hard in my nonprofit on it. Now, the biggest proponent of NDAs, as we recall, was Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about 501c3s that he's going to come for, and we're the only ones that are working on this stuff. Mary P said they could include therapists. My NDA said I could discuss it with, I could not discuss what happened on the campaign with anybody at any time whatsoever. And anybody whatsoever includes anybody.
Yep. And this too, NDAs are so much more than covering up just sexual abuse. The whole concept is designed to cover up immoral, illicit, corrupt actions that might result in criminal charges or market consequences. That is very accurate.
That is very accurate. And I will tell you, well, I'll give you an example. I can talk about Bill O'Reilly because that had nothing to do with me, Fox. Bill O'Reilly had been accused of sexual harassment by, I believe, over a dozen women, but any number of women. The first to do it was a woman in 2004. She was given a settlement with an NDA, which she did not want to sign, but her lawyers pushed her to sign it. And lawyers will tell you, if you don't sign it, you're not going to get any money. And if you're not going to get any money, we're not going to get any money. So we're not going to represent you. So you're basically all alone in this case, right?
Whoa.
She signed it. 20 years later.
Just really quick. What? Really? You work for Steve Bannon? That's crazy. Anyways.
You know what? You're absolutely right. They are more commonplace now. I'll tell you in a second why. But she signed it. 20 years later, at the height of the Me Too movement, she came forward and spoke to, I believe it was the Daily Beast, about what happened. He sued her, dragged her into arbitration, which was behind closed doors, forced her, bankrupted her in arbitration, and she had to pay his legal fees.
That is obscene. Obscene. And that's the thing too, is like, I mean, and anybody who, you know, Andrew Cuomo, let's talk about Andrew Cuomo here for a second and what he has done to the victims, that the women that he harassed and abused that worked for him when he was governor. He's now running for the mayor of New York City. Now, a lot of people have said, including myself before I knew the truth, you know, Andrew Cuomo got us through COVID when there was no leadership. And, you know, listen, Julie and I both live on the Upper West Side. There was tens of thousands of people dying around us, right? It was an awful time. And Andrew Cuomo got on TV every day and kind of told us what was up, right? Great. The truth is he's a predator. And the truth is he is a bully and he's not far off from Donald Trump. And he has used New York State tax dollars to harass and to bury his victims in legal bills. And he is using New York State tax dollars to not only fund his legal bills, but to do things like request gynecological records, health records from his accuser. So what ends up happening at the end of all of this is that the women just can't do it anymore unless you have access to unlimited amounts of money. If you know Lindsay Boylan, you might follow her on Twitter or Blue Sky or something. You know, she happens to have the funds to be able to fight him. Thank God. And she's very, very vocal about her disdain for him. But he has used tax dollars to do this. And women just end up settling and just like, you know, withdrawing their cases. because it's just too much, and they can't handle it even emotionally, but certainly not financially anymore. So
Yeah, I mean, the power imbalance is huge, right? And I think
Mhm.
when you first apply for a job, you're so excited. You negotiated your salary, you negotiated your benefits. And then on the first day of work, you're given the onboarding documents and check the box here, check the box here, check the box here. They're going to include forced arbitration, which means that you have to go into a secret chamber if you have a dispute to arbitrate the case. The arbitrator is chosen typically by the company. The arbitrator gets repeat business from the company. So, of course, they're going to rule on behalf of the company. And so, of all cases that can't go to arbitration, only 2% do.
Hmm.
Because of that 2%, only 2.5% result in any kind of financial compensation for the complainant. So, if you are a home healthcare worker who's cleaning up grandpa's bedpans and you're
Mhm.
probably, from the Caribbean, which is where most of them are, you're a woman of color, you're a woman of color, chances are almost 100% that you're bound by an arbitration agreement. Already you're disenfranchised in society. And then somebody says something awful to you, like calls you the N-word or harasses you. You go to your company and they say, sorry, you have to go to arbitration where nobody will hear about your case. You will not win.
Right.
I mean, the odds of you winning are minuscule.
The system is rigged against you, really.
So it's almost better to keep your mouth shut and continue to be, so it's just, it's brutal.
And I just want to say also, there's some people, the trolls in here. I just want to thank all 6,500 people who are here watching and joining us, because I'm seeing the numbers go up. And we're talking right now about NDAs and forced arbitration and the predatory nature of like how we silence victims of harassment and workplace abuse. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. So yeah, Julie, sorry, just keep going.
No. Anyway, I don't want to depress people on a Saturday morning. I'm happy.
Well, I mean, it's a reality, right? I mean, if anybody here, doesn't matter if you work in politics or Hollywood or anything, if you have an employer, this stuff pertains to you. It affects everybody.
I want people to really be very careful about what they sign at any point of their employment journey. Before you take the job, if you're getting a raise, if you're getting a promotion, if you're getting a severance, if you're getting settlement, severance, like they can get you at every point of your promotion. To go back to politics, Donald Trump loves arbitration and loves NDAs. But it's not just Trump, right? Because I just mentioned Phil Murphy of New Jersey. He's a Democrat. Yeah. Also loved NDAs. In fact, the reason
Cuomo too. I mean, look at it. I mean, it's just, that's the thing.
Interestingly, Cuomo did not have NDAs with those women.
That's actually kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Considering what an asshole he is.
Yeah. And those women kind of got pissed off at me because at one point I said on Twitter, they're lucky that they didn't have NDAs, which is why they could talk about this. And they're got upset. They're like, you think we're lucky? I'm like,
right.
Yeah. But the point is, it's just something for people to consider, and it's growing. And if anybody wants to know where it started, in 1992, only 2% of all American workers were bound by forced arbitration, which is the other way to keep you quiet. Today, 84% are. Well, what happened in 1992? Anita Hill came forward. And I don't know if correlation is causation. I just wanted to talk about what was going on. Anita Hill came forward and two things happened. One is that women woke up and were like, oh my God, this is like, outrageous. And the year of the woman and the following, that was 90, that was 91 and 92. That was the year of the woman. All these Democrats got elected. All these women got elected to office because of Anita Hill. The other thing that happened is that companies looked at Anita Hill and said, holy shit, we cannot have an Anita Hill here.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta do everything we can to prevent somebody doing this to us. So that's when they put NDAs in place and forced arbitration in place in much, much, much greater numbers, not just for proprietary information, but also for human rights abuses. And for a long time, until Gretchen Carlson came forward, and she came forward in 2016 before the Me Too movement with Weinstein kicked off. So she kind of was the first person to launch this iteration of the Me Too movement. She came forward in 2016, and people were shocked. They're like, "Oh my God, sexual harassment is still happening in the workplace." Well, it had been happening all along, but it had been covered up by NDAs and forced arbitration, so people
Right.
didn't.
This is why what you're doing is so important,
Yeah.
because I just don't think people know. And, I hope that, as time goes on, more and more platforms will give you the opportunity to just tell the general public about this, because I just don't think people know.
No, I mean, thank you. We have tremendous, luckily for us, because because people know the stories.
Right.
We do have a very fortunate platform to be able to tell the stories and speak. And we're actually hosting a panel. There's a movie, I believe it's next week or the week after, a movie about Lily Ledbetter, and we're doing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Joe Simon, you said Gretchen and Megan. Are you basing that on Bombshell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Megan went to the dark side, which she did.
Well, okay, but if you're thinking it's Gretchen and Megan, I can't say much because I have an NDA. My character was featured in Bombshell. I can't tell you whether it resembled anything that happened or not, but Hollywood is not reality. I'll leave it at that. So, and somebody else here said HR is not your friend. HR is not.
No, HR is not your friend, if they even exist. Really.
Yeah, HR is not your friend. HR exists to protect the company, not the employer.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And they will manipulate you, and they will, HR is never ever there to help you if there is an HR department at all. And I will say too, like this is really part of a bigger, even systemic issue about women in places of power, women in representative government who have the power to make laws that protect people. If you've watched the show Mad Men, right, you see how the women are treated. And the arc, even just in like the 6-7 seasons of that show, comparatively to when there really was a huge boom in corporate America of women in the 80s to now. It's not over. It's far from over. And this is why it's so important that there are women in places of power. And like the Year of the Woman, like Julie talked about, there was a record number of women running for office. But still we hold the minority, like there's not a lot of women in Congress. There's certainly not a lot of women in the Senate and state governments around the country. And, that's what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said. Somebody asked her, when will you be happy with the amount of women sitting on the Supreme Court? And she said, when there are 9, and there's a reason why. This is why. And of course, there are plenty of women who would love to, and I've worked with women like this, unfortunately, that love to weaponize misogyny to their benefit and take out the competition. But the reality is that there's, there doesn't need to just be one seat at the table. There's a seat for all of us. And,
somebody here mentioned American Girl. You're out of Seneca, which actually featured, and I was so touched when I first saw it, featured that bill signing with Joe Biden in the White House, signing our bill to end enforced arbitration for sexual harassment.
That was a very, very, very important photograph for me that we included.
Yeah, so thank you for including that. But I will say, we you know what? This just inspires me. We're going to do a separate show, a Substack Live.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want people to know. Maybe we'll have Gretchen come on as well.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd watch that.
Yeah, because she and I talk about this all the time, but she really is the hero here because she went first. I went second.
I just, and like, that's the thing too. It's just, if anybody watching this has been part of a toxic or abusive workplace, especially when you are working for very powerful, forward-facing people, it is not an easy thing to come forward, especially as a woman. Luckily, Gretchen had enough, notoriety, people and name recognition that she had some credibility. But even then, I mean, they couldn't wait to attack her. They couldn't wait to attack her credibility. I mean, it's just a horrible thing that you have to go through to speak up. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, she is, for anybody here who doesn't know who Gretchen Carlson is, I mean, she was a very big anchor at Fox News and had the courage to speak up about Roger Ailes sexually harassing her. And I remember being at Fox when this happened. I was literally in the makeup chair. Somebody handed me their phone to show me an article from Mediaite, which is kind of the gossip blog,
Yeah.
the media industry. And it said Gretchen Carlson accuses Roger Ailes of sexual harassment. And I had two reactions. One was, this poor woman, we will never see her again. She will be dead. I didn't think she was going to literally be dead, but her career is going to be, she'll be crying in her, drink every night because we'll never see her again. And the second was, holy shit, so it's not just me.
Mhm.
And that's what it takes for people to, that's what it is. Courage is contagious, right? Had she not come
Yeah.
forward, I never would have come forward.
Yeah.
And that's why they try to shut you up so much. They want you to think it's just you.
Right. Same with Donald Trump's accusers. There's so many of them. And Harvey Weinstein,
That's just an
there's
example of that. I mean, Harvey Weinstein, I don't know if anybody here knows anything about Zelda Perkins, who's wonderful and kind of runs a parallel organization to the one that Gretchen and I run in Britain, but she was Harvey Weinstein's assistant. She went to him when she was 23 years old because even a younger assistant came to her and said, Harvey Weinstein has attacked me.
Hmm.
She went to Harvey Weinstein and confronted him on it. That's it. That was the end of her career. Dragged through the mud. She went to, I forgot where, whether it was Argentina or Brazil. I forgot where she went, but she went somewhere to South America and raised horses for years because she had to get the hell away from this. She's British. I mean, she had to go from England to South America to deal with horses because she just was like, I can't. And now she's just an incredible trailblazer and doing her amazing work.
Do you know the name of her organization? Someone's asking.
You know what? I Can't Buy My Silence. Yep. Can't Buy My Silence. And if you're in Canada, they're doing work there too. They just passed a law in Ireland to ban NDAs. They're doing what we're doing in the United States. They're doing in Ireland and Canada and the UK. So she's fantastic. And her partner, Julie McFarlane, who's Canadian, is fantastic. They're just wonderful people. But all of these stories, you hear the stories about us from Fox, you hear the stories about Harvey Weinstein, you hear all of these kind of Matt Lauer, all of these kind of big stories. But I'll tell you, the people who are really screwed are the people working at Walmart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of these settlement agreements also come with an agreement that you will never apply for the job of the company, a job at the company again. So if you settle with Walmart and you work at a Walmart, which is the only employer for 100 miles around, and you can't work at Walmart anymore, where are you going to go find a job?
And this is why too, like I encourage, there's a lot of people, we're 6,800 people now watching. If you are hearing my voice, please listen to me. If somebody comes forward about workplace abuse, toxicity, right? And that employer or the people in charge, their first attack, especially against a woman, is that she was difficult, that she was mean, that she was bossy. Okay. That is, first of all, it's the easiest playbook, but this is always, always, always the first thing that people say about women. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in this country who believe it. They love to say that women are hysterical or overdramatic or emotional or difficult or many other things. I mean, this is a huge attack that they have when women run for office. I mean, look at the way that they treated Hillary Clinton. She was too much this. She's cold. She's this. Kamala Harris laughs too loud. There's so much misogyny baked into this as well. And, I encourage and I hope that people listening to this, if you hear something or if you see a headline about someone attacking a woman like this, just know that it's horseshit most of the time. It's horseshit. Yep. Right. Don't forget that women are hormonal. Exactly. Right. I love the people on the right that were like, Kamala Harris can't be president. What happens when she gets her period? I'd be like, you don't know how this works, do you?
What?
Yeah, no, not in our chat, but you remember that. I mean, I don't know if you saw that. They're like on the right wing podcast. They're like, well, what are we going to do? Kamala Harris, like, she's too emotional, too hormonal. She gets her period. And I'm like, she's 60. Do you know how that works?
No, they don't. But even if she were 30,
Even if she was, it wouldn't matter. But like,
30, like, what do you think? We don't function for a week out of the month?
right. Right. We're hysterical. We have to be,
Yeah,
you
we're
know,
hysterical.
held down and medicated.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway.
But yeah. So I think you should do a separate show about this at some point. Julie, I certainly will be, you know, in the front row listening. And
Yeah.
I do want to just say this and trigger warning to anyone that I'm going to share this. This is about suicide. This woman, Virginia Joffrey, I think is her last name.
Jeffrey, yeah.
Jeffrey, it came out yesterday that she committed suicide. She was one of the first and most vocal victims of Prince Andrew's, and under the umbrella of Jeffrey Epstein. There's been several documentaries and specials and things that she has spoken up. I can't tell you, my heart broke. I gasped when I saw this yesterday. I feel so awful for her, the amount of trauma that she has had to endure, not just while it was happening, but after, and to watch these people just get away with it. And Julie was saying in the group chat yesterday, you know, Prince Andrew was just welcomed back into the royal family for Easter last week. It's awful. It's just awful.
It's awful because Prince Andrew, well, we don't have to belabor the whole royal family in the first place and whatever. But look, I get it. Prince Andrew wasn't given anything to do with his life because he was like a star and not the heir, kind of like Prince Harry. But unlike Prince Harry, he didn't start charities. He didn't, I don't really know what he did with his life. He also could have gotten a job. Like, you don't need to, you know.
Right.
Nobody's forcing you to do this.
Right.
But his weirdo interview with the BBC.
Yeah. There's a movie about this. It's very good, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But what's interesting about Virginia, I think her last name is Jeffrey. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
I did not realize that she had come, by the time she got to Epstein, she had already been harassed. She was homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Sexually abused as a child. She was homeless.
Right.
She was living in Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco, even though she was originally from Florida, because she ran away from home because she had been sexually abused by a family member. And so she said that when she met Ghislaine Maxwell, that's how you pronounce her first name.
Ghislaine, yeah.
Yeah. She had told her that she wanted to be a masseuse. Because of all of this. And she said, I told her the whole story. And by telling her the whole story, they understood that I was a prime candidate for what they were trying to do.
Yep.
You know, to some extent, how do you ever get over that?
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
You just don't. And you know, at 41 years old, she's a year younger than me. Like, I just cannot wrap my head around it. And it's just, the amount of pain that someone must be in, that she must have been in to take her life. I hope that, I mean, this sounds like a terrible thing to say, but it's just like, I hope she has peace. Like, I don't know, like, you know, it's an awful thing. It's an awful thing.
Her little girl, I think she had 3 kids. I think she had 3.
Awful. Just awful. I feel for her. May her memory be a blessing. I just, you know, I wanted to give her, you know, a moment to talk about her, especially since we were talking about, you know, abuse and whatnot.
Yeah.
But
let's finish on something positive. Does anybody hear? Go ahead.
No, I don't know if it's necessarily positive, but it's certainly fascinating. And it's something that I think we should all be paying attention to. If anybody watches the Stakes that Tara and I do on Thursday nights,
which you should.
Yes, we have a fun time. A lot of research often goes into our show. I want to talk just really quick about Opus Dei, if you know what Opus Dei is and why it pertains to the Pope's funeral today. and why it very likely is going to affect American politics and why it already is. Opus Dei is a far-right fascist cult within the Catholic Church. Now, I want people to understand, I'm not saying this about the Catholic Church, which the Catholic Church does have its problems, okay? But this is a certain tiny sect within the Catholic Church that is fascist, far right, hates women. I mean, it's bad. It's a cult. And there is a guy named Gareth Gore. I talked about him on the show. He wrote a book about this. It's called Opus, The Cult of Dark Money, Human Trafficking, Right-Wing Conspiracy Inside the Catholic Church. Now, I'll just give you a quick rundown of who in the American government is connected to Opus Dei. Leonard Leo, who is the head of the Federalist Society, which is, big law, right? He has bundled billions of dollars to pack the Supreme Court, specifically with a lot of Catholics. Bill Barr is connected. Kevin Roberts, right? Kevin Roberts, you may know him from the Heritage Foundation and one of the architects of Project 2025. A lot of Project 2025's objectives align with Opus Dei. One of their biggest recruits, who is a recent Catholic convert, is J.D. Vance. He has become a bit of a Frankenstein for this super right-wing part of the Catholic Church. It's a small group, but they're very, very powerful, not just in the United States, but there are cells of Opus Dei around the world. If you've seen, now this is a very dramatic and not entirely accurate depiction of them, but if you've seen the Da Vinci Code, the backdrop of that is Opus Dei. There is stuff within Opus Dei practices of the self-flagellation, like 40 minutes a day. You're supposed to like hurt yourself or something. And that's why in that movie, he's got the chain thing around his leg and he's like torturing himself. Like there's some crazy shit. They also, within the Catholic Church, you probably know that confession is a big part of the practice. They monitor people's confessions. They collect information about you. They use it against you. There is a very big grooming process that happens. They love bomb you with all kinds of stuff to recruit you and bring you in. The second that they do bring you into Opus Dei, they begin to sort of torture you in a way. There is also a short docuseries on HBO right now about how a bunch of women escaped Opus Dei.
What's it called? Because I want to watch it. And you mentioned it before.
Yeah, it's called, hold on. I think it's like How I Escaped.
How I Escaped.
Opus Dei. I really think that might be what it, How I Left Opus Dei.
Okay.
And it's brand new. And it's about a bunch of women who had been enslaved and trafficked in current modern day.
I gotta watch that, but I gotta watch that. Like my husband's Catholic and he's a former altar boy, 12 years of Catholic school. The mass every Sunday, certainly same political ideologies I am, pro-choice, the whole 9 yards, but still. So I got to figure out if I can watch that when he's around.
I think so. I mean, because again, it's not representative of the Catholic Church. It's really, it's its own. I mean, think of like Christianity, right? And like the most extreme parts of Christianity. I mean, like this, and that's why within the Vatican, they're not very well liked, or they have not been very well liked, especially by Pope Francis, who has lived his life in service and whose views are the polar opposite. So this is why there was a tweet thread that Gareth Gore, the author of this book, wrote yesterday, because obviously there's a lot going on right now. So I just want to show this, okay? When the Pope died on Monday, Pope Francis had been on the cusp of signing into canon law a huge reform of Opus Dei, an abusive cult at the heart of the church. These reforms now may never happen. Now, this is going to explain probably a lot why J.D. Vance was there, okay? Opus Dei was due to vote on a new set of statutes, which have been rammed down its throat by the Vatican at a meeting this week. But within hours of Francis's death, the vote was quietly canceled. This comes after years of Opus Dei dragging its feet. Francis issued a decree demanding reform in July 2022. It came after allegations the group was involved in human trafficking and enslaving young girls, like we had just talked about in this docuseries. Opus Dei demurred. It submitted revisions to its statutes that were all half-hearted, which were rejected by the Vatican. Francis issued another decree demanding deeper reform in August 2023. Once again, Opus Dei has dragged its feet. One Opus Dei benefactor told me, Gareth Gore, that the Pope was, quote, tightening the noose, but wouldn't have enough time. The bet was that Pope Francis would die before he got what he wanted. In recent months, Francis seems to have given Opus Dei the hurry up. The organization recently said it would finally put its new statutes drawn up in collaboration with the Vatican to a vote. They were then supposed to go to Francis for approval. Within hours of the Pope's death, that vote was canceled. If the strategy was to wait for the Pope to die and hope that the next guy will allow Opus Dei to carry on unreformed, it looks like it has worked. Everything now hangs on who the next Pope will be. And meanwhile, Opus Dei priests in Argentina are set to stand trial in Argentina for their role in human trafficking and alleged enslavement. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's not just Argentina. There are victims around the world. So I say all that to say, this is a very big deal. They are very directly tied to the United States government and the people who are trying to destroy democracy. Opus Dei, part of their mission is to dismantle democracies, yes, in the United States and around the world. There are threats now from Opus Dei saying if you don't choose or vote for, if the conclave doesn't choose a far right Opus Dei aligned new pope, that they will split the Catholic Church. There are arguments to be made that big tech now is involved so that they can buy yet another piece of power in the world, that they will have the pulpit, the presidencies, and everything else. So that's why, as much as you might not care about what's happening with the Pope, you're not Catholic, you're not religious, you just couldn't give a shit, it will fall in all of our laps eventually.
Mary
the tentacles.
Mary P. does raise a good point. I think it's actually as high as 80%, if I'm not mistaken. But Francis did appoint the vast, vast, vast majority of the cardinals voting in the conclave. So that's good.
Mhm.
But it is scary because look, they've pretty much taken over the United States government.
Mhm.
What has co-equal power to the United States government? I would argue probably the Catholic Church, and that's about, right. I don't know about co-equal, but I mean that kind of stature, because it is 1 billion people worldwide.
Yep.
So that kind of is the grand prize. Before we go, because I do have to take my son to a sports event. Somebody in the chat said that George, I want to keep it's not George Conway, George Santos got convicted. And are we happy about that?
87 months, I think, right?
Yeah. Drop a note in the chat if you think Donald Trump will pardon him. I pardon him or commute a sentence.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to serve his sentence. When I was at the dinner last night for my birthday, we were with a few people who were shocked when I said this. So maybe I'm being paranoid. But what do you guys think? Drop us a note because I think he might, because George Santos has gone so full MAGA. On the other hand, George Santos dresses up like a woman, so Trump doesn't like
I know
that.
it could go either way. You never. But then again, I mean, Caitlyn Jenner is trans, and they allow her in the cabal. So who knows?
Trans. He was just a drag queen for a while.
Yeah. But even so,
as was Rudy and Trump. Remember, didn't they dress up like women for SNL
in like a department store or something? Yeah, there was like a thing. Yeah. But yeah. Oh, just really quick too. I just want to give a shout out to Shannon Vavich. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. We talked about her on the show Thursday too. Shannon Vavich. The Flying Kitchen is the name of her account on Instagram. We gave her a shout out with some of her content on Thursday. She reached out to us and said thank you. So we're going to try to have her on the show. She is an American. She is living in Germany. She is the wife of a retired Marine. She is Catholic. She has 7 kids. She loves to cook. And her whole thing is that she talks about Opus Dei while she's cooking and like making food for her family. She was recruited into a far right Catholic cult 25 years ago. And they told her she learned all of the things that they're trying to do. And so she's sharing all of this and her perspective, not only as American living abroad, but as someone who knows this world very, very well. So please go follow her. She's on Instagram. She's on YouTube as well. So please, what's her name again? It's, if you go to Instagram, It's Shannon Vavich. It's Shannon VAVICH _ The Flying Kitchen. And then I think it's The Flying Kitchen on YouTube. So anyways, just wanted to give her a shout out. She's a lovely woman, and we are excited to, I need to reach back out to her and respond. It's just been crazy the last day. We're going to have her on one of our shows to talk about this. So
Nick Lento, who
Anyways.
I love. Hello, Nick Lento from New Jersey. You said if Trump helps him, it will redound badly on Trump. He just pardoned January 6th, guys.
right.
I don't think he cares about whatever. He just pardoned somebody who was accused of, like, just yesterday, I think, of like theft, of basically defrauding people, but that guy was a MAGA guy, so he pardoned him. Like,
Right.
who
Well, I
cares?
mean, there was one of his donors who gave him $5 million, who's like runs a poultry plant or something for him. Trump just rolled back all of the poultry inspection laws for salmonella. So, like, he'll do anything. He doesn't give a shit if it's like money or power, whatever. Like, he'll pardon, he'll give salmonella. Like, they don't listen, as someone who's had Campylobacter, I got that a few years ago, is
What's
the
that?
worst. It's like E. coli, but you get it from poultry. It is horrendous. I was so sick. My insides were bleeding. I
Oh.
had to go to a gastroenterologist. I had to get a colonoscopy. I mean, it was horrendous. I was sick for like a month. So I'm just saying, like, the fact that they're, we're going back to Animal Farm. We're like, the Gilded Age is what they want us to go back to in every single possible way. They rolled back the protections on our milk supply, like all of it. So, will he pardon George Santos? Like, yeah, sure. But it depends on how he's feeling that day,
Yeah, and somebody here said he'll do it to own the libs.
Yeah.
Probably. He'll do it to own. I mean, the whole thing is to own the libs. The reason that Pete Hegseth is still in place is to own the libs.
Yeah.
That's literally the only reason.
The jungle, exactly. The jungle. Mm-hmm. That's the
All
book.
right, you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, the fact that we keep growing this community is insane.
I know. We have 7,200 people here watching us across platforms. And, we are so grateful that you're all here and participating in the chat too. I mean, it makes it really interesting and exciting for us too, to hear what you're thinking and, see your questions and your point of view. I mean, somebody here was like, I worked for Bannon. I mean, you just never know who's going to be here. So, thanks everybody.
All right. So I'm trying to think of what news we have.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think. Well, first of all, join us on Wednesday at noon for our Over It
Mhm.
show. Join us here again next Saturday. I know that a lot of people are going out marching on May Day, but before you do, join us and then hopefully go out, which is what happened last couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I'm doing my usual show on Thursday with
Which everybody should watch. It's so good.
At 11 on a Substack Live called Pax Americana. If you guys are not on Substack Live, or if you're not on Substack, you're not going to get these shows. So just join the platform. Even if you don't post, follow me. You can see there Salty Politics and Substack. Michelle's got a Substack, which I think you're going to start.
I don't really do anything over there, but sure.
Tara's got one. Joe's got one. The point is, like, we're going to bring the show over to Substack, which doesn't mean that you can't watch it on YouTube, because you'll be able to still watch it.
Yeah, we're still going to stream, and there'll be exclusive content for people who subscribe, but we want, this community has been so loyal and so supportive to us that we want to make sure that we keep this show and the Wednesday show, streamed to YouTube, but it'll originate from Substack, and then we'll have other stuff for people who, want to have exclusive access and to different things.
And Nick Lento just said, on to see Katie's last show. You guys, we got to get off the air here before Katie comes on. And Rachel Maddow, I think, is going to be joining her. But most importantly, go give a click to Katie, because she deserves
and they may be playing part of our ad that we won in Webby for. So I just want to give that. I don't know how much of it they're going to show, but they are going to show some of it. That's what I was told by their booking producer yesterday. So, and that's the other bit of news, is that thank you everyone for your support, your votes, your clicks, your shares of American Girl. We won the People's Voice Award with the Webbies, and we are just incredibly humbled by the love and support we have from everyone. So I just want to say thank you, and, follow us everywhere. Tara and I do the stakes on Thursday nights at 7:30.
watch
That's
that.
it. Yeah, and that's it. That's it,
All right,
everybody.
guys. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. It is rainy around here in the Northeast, but hopefully sunny wherever you are. The rest of this
Yeah.
week here is going to be warm and wonderful. So I'm so excited for summer. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Yes.
everybody.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.